The 1970 movie Cromwell is a historical drama film which depicts the life of Oliver Cromwell, a leader of the Parliamentary forces during the later years of the English Civil War, and later Lord Protector of England. It boasts a star-studded cast, with Richard Harris as Cromwell and Alec Guinness as Charles I. But as great as this movie is, how close to history is it? To begin with, it is only fair to point out that this is a movie made to entertain, and not a documentary to educate. But the film did claim that it had been made after 10 years of research. Nevertheless, the film has been criticised for its historical inaccuracies. Costumes, locations, and the appearance of actors were generally correct, but as in many historical movies, liberties were taken with the course of events. The events of the film start in 1940 with Cromwell's quote, "By the King's own decree, Parliament has not sat these past 12 years." This implies that Charles I dismissed Parliament in 1628, though in truth Charles I dismissed Parliament in 1629, 11 years ago. Early in the film, Cromwell's discontent of the enclosures of common lands appears to be the source of his reasoning and actions. Historically, Charles I was noted for being an anti-enclosure reformer, though he did pursue some enclosures to raise revenues during his personal reign. The movie seriously embellishes Cromwell's role in the events leading up to the outbreak of the English Civil War, suggesting that he and Dalton were among the 5 members of Parliament whom the King tried to arrest when he entered the House of Commons, and that Cromwell stayed in his seat and defied the King. In reality, the 5 members were John Pym, John Hampden, Denzil Hollis, William Strode, and Sir Arthur Hazelrig. Charles' occupation of the Speaker's chair signalling his sovereignty over Parliament, and remarked that "the birds have flown" are genuine, as is the Speaker Lenthall's claim that he had neither eyes to see nor tongue to speak, save as the Commons directed him. During the movie's depiction of the Battle of Edge Hill in 1642, Cromwell is shown as a colonel, though at that time in history he was only a captain, and became a colonel in 1643. In fact, Cromwell was not present at the battle, as his troops arrived too late in the evening to take part. The movie shows the famous soldier's prayer put into Cromwell's mouth. "O Lord, thou knowest how busy I must be this day. If I forget thee, do not thou forget me." In fact, the prayer came from Sir Jacob Astley, a royalist commander. Perhaps the biggest historical event of the English Civil War is not mentioned in the movie. The Battle of Marston Moor of July 1644 was the biggest battle in the Civil War, and Cromwell, by this time Lieutenant General, second in command of the Earl of Manchester's army, played an important role in the Parliamentary victory. The movie moves forward to the Battle of Naseby in 1645, and just before going into action, Cromwell says, "Was not Gideon outnumbered by the Amalekites?" Though according to the Book of Judges, chapter 7, it was the Midianites whom Gideon fought while outnumbered. The Battle of Naseby itself contains a couple of historical inaccuracies, such as Prince Rupert's white hunting poodle boy, who was seen being carried by Rupert before the Battle of Naseby. In reality, the boy was killed a year earlier during the Battle of Marston Moor. Also, Cromwell's son, Oliver, is depicted as having been killed during the Battle of Naseby in June 1645. Towards the end of the film, the elder Oliver is seen at his son's gravestone, which clearly shows the year of his death as 1644. Though in truth, the younger Oliver Cromwell died of smallpox during the spring of 1644, while in garrison at Newport Pagnell. Also during the Battle of Naseby, Cromwell is named as Commander-in-Chief of the Parliamentary forces, while Sir Thomas Fairfax is shown as Cromwell's subordinate. In fact, Thomas Fairfax was Lord General, Commander-in-Chief of the New Model Army during the English Civil War. He commanded the Parliamentary forces at Naseby. Cromwell, one of the few politicians to retain a military command when the New Model Army was formed, was Lieutenant General, second in command, and commander of the cavalry. He commanded the Parliamentary right-wing cavalry at Naseby. The movie then shows Cromwell entering Oxford, where he personally arrests the king in the name of Parliament. Historically, at the end of the First Civil War, the king surrendered to the Scottish army and was only put in the custody of the English Parliament some time later. He was then seized by the New Model troops, led by Cornet Joyce, some time after that. Sir Thomas Fairfax is shown in the movie as being present as a judge at the King's trial. This is somewhat true, as he did turn up for the first day of the trial, but absented himself after this. After the King is found guilty at his trial, Cromwell is the first one to sign Charles's death warrant, after Fairfax refuses to. But in truth, he was the third to sign, after John Bradshaw and Lord Grey of Groby. The movie then shows Parliament offering Cromwell the throne. He instantly dismisses the idea of becoming king, laughing it off as absurd after what he had fought for. In truth, Cromwell was reluctant to accept the office of king, but took the offer very seriously, as so many in Parliament thought it vital. He refused the offer after several weeks of negotiations, mainly because the army was opposed to it. The film then gives the impression that Cromwell spent the interwar years on his farm and lands in Huntingdon. In fact, he had been overseeing the subjection of Ireland and the Anglo-Scottish War, both of which go unmentioned in the film. It was before the Anglo-Scottish War campaign that Cromwell succeeded Fairfax as Lord General. The movie then ends with both the Earl of Essex and the Earl of Manchester sitting in Cromwell's presence in the House of Commons. The Earl of Essex is shown to be present in the last scene when Cromwell dissolved the Rump Parliament 6 years after the execution of Charles I. In truth, they would have actually sat in the House of Lords, and the Earl of Essex died in 1646. Cromwell is a magnificent film with authentic costumes that immerse you into 17th century England. If you have never watched it, I highly recommend that you do, especially if you enjoy history.